Greetings, Earthlings. Welcome to Nature Obscura, a podcast where nature and the supernatural collide. I'm Marissa.
And I'm Grace. Each week, we share spooky happenings from the great outdoors, from cryptids to curses, ghosts to witches, and everything in between.
While we love a haunted house, you just fell asleep and you got abducted by an alien inside your home situation, we're not going to talk about that. It has to involve the outdoors.
At the beginning of each episode, we're going to briefly share any spooky or naturey encounters that we've had before diving into the main story. So, Marissa, do you have anything for us this week?
I have updates. In the past, you guys might have remembered how during our Hestelon Valley UFO episodes, I talked about my alien encounter as a teenager and how my dad recorded it. Well, my dad found the video.
Yes, I want to see it. Oh my God.
I'm gonna send you the video right now.
I kind of hope it's just like all of you guys freaking out watching this.
It is, and it's my brother. So I'm like, I was in high school. I feel like I sound the same. My dad sounds the same, but my brother was like 13. I don't remember his voice ever being so high-pitched because I don't know if you've talked to my brother, but he has like a very deep voice and he's like in the height of puberty. His voice is so high. It's so
Oh
funny.
my God.
We were
Love
just
it.
playing it over and over again, laughing at him. Okay, so it's very dark, so turn up your brightness. This was pre my dad having a smartphone, so he did record it on a crappy kind of weird vertical camera, but you can see the lights. It's just the dots.
Yeah. Wow. Those lights are really cool.
Like zoom lights.
Brother's voice. Wow, those lights are weird. They're like kind of evenly spaced and they're just like, are they moving? I couldn't tell.
Yeah, so they're moving in formation. And my dad said he stopped recording before it happened, but the lights went out. They faded out one by one, like in a sequence.
I don't even know your brother, but just hearing that voice, it's so funny because I think of my own younger brother.
Exactly.
That's so funny. But yeah, I would be freaked out by those lights too. What
It
year
was
did you
really
say that
cool.
was?
I think it was like 2011 or 2012.
I'm glad that your dad found that. What a gem.
I know, it was really fun. I was like, oh, you can kind of see him with his like crappy 2012 video, but it was pretty cool. The other thing is I had an update about the last episode. You know how I told you that my mom said she had a bunch of angels around her, like someone told her that?
Yes.
Okay, well, it turns out it happened at the museum. So someone came up to her out of nowhere at the museum and was like, hey, you have a bunch of angels hovering around you. Then she had the really creepy encounter upstairs, or maybe it was after. I don't know if it was before or after, but that's all that happened at the museum. And then the same person that said that, like, kept asking, like, they're like, you know, I'd be happy to come to your home and like do a reading because you have so many ghosts around you type stuff. And my mom didn't let her,
Well, no.
which I mean makes sense. So I was like, oh, that's cool.
That is cool, but also just so freaky in a way. Like, I love it because having angels around you, unless angels are evil, you never know, I guess. But they could, it could be a good thing.
I'd be scared.
I would be too. So you're watching everything I do? Like,
It's a
can't
little
do anything in
much.
peace? You
Like
know?
1, 2, okay, sure. 3? 3's a crowd. Haven't they heard of that? But 6?
Yeah, and I wonder if they're all just like bickering or they're like
Right.
judging. Like,
Oh,
gosh, she's
God.
really doing this again. Like,
Ugh.
imagine for you or me, like, God, they're talking about birds again.
For real.
Did you have any updates while we're doing updates on the Ouija board?
No. In fact, I don't know where the Ouija board is.
It's not in your car anymore?
I just realized it's not, but I didn't move it from my car.
I
So
hate
I'm gonna
that.
have to look. Yeah, I literally was just in the backseat of my it's not there anymore. I kind of forgot about it until you just said that. So I don't know. Maybe I did bring it inside and forgot, but I didn't think I did. So I'll have to see. I don't know its location. So the Ouija board location unknown. Any updates on your end? Any creepy deer? Have you had any spooky or earthy encounters the past week?
No creepy deer, but I have something a bit creepy. Maybe to some, but not to me, really. So, with the weather changing, come the bugs. And I love bugs and spiders. And of course, I know not all little critters that we call bugs are actually bugs. Most people call them bugs. I'm all for it. All winter, we've had the brown stink bug in our house. I've been
Same.
seeing them everywhere. You see one, you're like, oh, that's adorable. I'm just going to pick you up and put it on a plant. They've been mostly minding their own business. I love them. Every now and then, they'll eat a leaf on my plant and I have to move them, but they're great roommates. I love them. Have I said I love them enough? But with the weather changing this past week, especially, it's getting warmer. We actually had a swarm of box elder bugs, like over 100, just on the corner of our house.
And the inside?
No, no. Oh God,
Oh, okay.
outside.
Because I was gonna say,
Yeah.
that's some exorcist situation, like,
Mhm.
that's the omen. Okay, just wanted
Yeah,
to make
no,
sure
if it
we're
was on
good.
the inside, I would be
Call the
so
priest.
this would be a different conversation, yeah. I'll need an old priest and a young priest for that one.
I think all those bugs appeared in the window in the inside of the Omen novel, and the priest left. He's like, "Yeah, you're gonna need someone else." And if
Yeah,
a Catholic priest can't handle, like, a demonic thing, I don't know what can, but
exactly. Luckily, it was not that kinda
good, good,
situation.
good. Good, good.
It was, like, over 100, and I have so many questions. Like, how do they know where to meet, all of them? Is it just pheromones, that kind of thing? Why are they there? Are they mating? Where did they all come
Mhm.
from? Are they living in my house and they kinda just crawled out somehow? I have so many questions, and I need all of them answered, like, right now.
These are bad, right?
I don't know. I think they're cute. I haven't done any research on them.
I can't remember. I know there's, like, a type that's, like, invasive. It doesn't seem like these ones are.
It's the black and orange box elder.
I like those.
I do too. I think they're so cute. And the other day, I found a cellar spider and a ladybug in my bathroom all at the same time,
Oh,
and I
wow.
love that as well. And I don't mind sharing my house with little fellas as long as they don't destroy it. Like termites.
Yeah.
I don't want that. You know,
No.
I don't want anything that's gonna eat the walls or destroy our home. But so, like last week, sometime, my daughter, she left a piece of food in the middle of the living room, right? And we didn't see it. And this was a day, it had been cold. And the next day, we found a super duper long trail of ants that led from the fireplace to the middle of the living room. And Marissa, when I tell you this trail was so long just to get to this little piece of food, it was like 15 feet long. It like meandered around our
Oh,
large
wow.
carpet that we have in the house, went across the rug and like to the middle of it. And then they were just like going back and forth. I watched them for a little while. I loved it so much.
Honestly,
Mm.
I'd be impressed. Like, I'd be like, "Ugh, okay," but it's like, that's impressive, and I'm, like, envisioning it now. That is a long distance. How many
Yeah,
were
and
there?
there were so many. There were so many ants. And we were like, where do these ants come from? Because it's just been cold. And so whenever we were following the trail to get to the fireplace, at the fireplace, there were like little bits of food. Like they'd worked so hard.
Ugh,
They'd worked so
wow.
hard. And I usually have like a strict we do not kill bugs or spiders or ants in this household. But James did sweep some of them up and put them outside, which I kind of hate because did you know that when they're separated from their colony, it's like most certainly death for
No,
them.
I
Most
didn't know that.
so sad. But also, so this leads me into my next thing is that just yesterday I got a new desk pet at work. So, like, at where I work, we're allowed to have animals and insects and stuff at our desks, and so originally, I just had 2 enclosures of cockroaches and 1 enclosure of isopods and a tarantula, which I'm
So
all
you already
about.
had 4 desk pets?
Yes, but my 2 enclosures of cockroaches, they breed, so there's so many. There's so many in there, but I love taking care of them. I love bugs. I love spiders. But just yesterday, I added 4 Florida ivory millipedes. They're so cute. They're like I don't know, they're like 4 inches long, and you can hold them, and I made a little enclosure for them. It has, like, some nice dirt and some moss in there and some cork, and, you just mist it and give them some fruit to eat, and they just hang out. I thought maybe they'd go under the substrate and hide, but no, they're, like, out and about, moving around. I love it so much.
I love that.
Yeah, yeah, I'm really excited. I think I'm slowly collecting more and more bugs, and I love it. I imagine one day in my house, I'm just gonna have, like, a wall of bugs.
So, this week's episode, we are heading to one of the rainiest places in continental USA, Washington. A lovely place filled with moss. And yeah, it rains a lot. Most of the time, it's water, but there's been two incidences where it actually wasn't. Raining blobs wreaked havoc in the rural town of Oakville. Day two.
All right, so let's learn a bit about Oakville. Oakville, Washington lies between two of America's most iconic national parks. To the east, Mount Rainier looms over the horizon, while to the north lie the rain soaked peaks of the Olympic Mountains. The town itself sits on the northern shore of the Chehalis River at a unique geological crossroads, the meeting point where the Black River merges into the Chehalis. The Black River is famously slow moving, with tannin stained water that looks like dark tea. It holds a rare title in Washington as waterway that can drain toward both the Pacific coast and the Puget Sound, which is an inland estuary. Because of this unusual convergence of the region's wet climate, the town lives in a constant cycle of annual flooding. The topography of Oakville was carved thousands of years ago by the Puget Lobe ice sheet, leaving behind the low-lying Cowlitz-Puget Trough. This glacial history created seasonal wetlands and rare mound and swale prairies, a mosaic of open grasslands with small, rounded hills and low-lying, often damp, dips between them. The star of this landscape is the Gary oak tree, Washington's only native oak, which gave the town its name. These aren't your typical timber trees. They are beautiful, twisted giants with silver gray bark that can live over 500 years. They are surrounded by a vibrant carpet of camas, a blue flowered lily that was once one of the most important food sources for indigenous peoples in the Pacific Northwest. But this ecosystem is fragile, and many of the once numerous plants that indigenous people depended on are now rare. Without the historical fire management practiced by the Chehalis people, these sun drenched prairies would quickly be overtaken by encroaching Douglas fir forests, erasing one of the most biodiverse habitats in the Pacific Northwest. The wildlife here is just as diverse as the plant life. In the marshes of the Chehalis Basin, you'll find the rare and endangered Oregon spotted frog. These frogs are highly aquatic, even hibernating in the mud during winter. They have disappeared from nearly 90% of their range, though, due to invasive bullfrogs and habitat loss. But local head starting programs are working to raise them in predator free environments before releasing them back into the wild, which is why captive breeding programs are so important. Hidden in the same murky, slow moving shallows as the spotted frog is a resident found nowhere else on the planet, the Olympic mud minnow. They thrive in dark, oxygen poor, tannin stained ponds with thick, muddy bottoms. They are considered a sensitive species and are a vital indicator of environmental health. Meanwhile, the rivers are filled with salmon, making their annual migrations. There's the massive Chinook, or king salmon, the acrobatic coho, aka silver salmon, and the chum, better known as dog salmon, because they are fierce and they have canine like teeth that the males develop during breeding. I added a photo of that below, and I was kind of terrified because I did not know that salmon had teeth. I don't know if that's like a common fact people just know, but looking at this photo, I'm like actually kind of scared of salmon now.
I don't like it. I
I
don't
don't
like
like it
that.
either. I mean, he's got that like cute calico thing going on, but I don't like it.
The coloration's pretty. The teeth, not my thing.
Do they use the teeth on each other? Like, why would they even need teeth like that?
Do they eat smaller fish? I guess I don't know.
I don't know much about salmon. I should have done more research.
I did once go kayaking up north, and it was during the salmon what how salmon?
I say salmon, salmon,
Okay.
salmon, probably the same.
Salmon migration. I realized I think I say wolf wrong. I say, like, wolf and not wolf,
I
and
have
I, like
noticed that. I wasn't gonna correct you
why
because
did
I
you
thought it was
correct me in
kind
the
of cute.
episode? I said it wrong, like, 4,700 times, so then I'm just, like, listening to myself, like, as I'm editing it. It's like I said it wrong every single time. It's
Well,
like,
the thing is,
okay.
like, I've heard you say that, like, since I've known you, and I have
No.
noticed, but, it's just a cute little quirk that you have. You say wolf instead of wolf.
Okay. The L's hard for me, okay?
I'm
Like
so sorry, Marissa.
it's okay. But, anyway, we were kayaking during salmon migration, and it was amazing. Hundreds and hundreds of salmon just swimming along either side of the
Oh.
canoe or kayak. It was awesome.
And they're so muscular.
Yeah, they're really neat.
Wow, that's awesome. As you move just north of Oakville into the capital state forest, the canopy thickens and the feeling of isolation grows. While bears and cougars are common, locals often talk about the elusive wild turkey, which was introduced to the state in the early 1900s for hunting purposes. I did do some research on this because I thought it was interesting that they introduced turkeys. Apparently, the turkeys don't cause ecological damage and they don't take food away from other animals, so it's considered okay. And there's been multiple reintroduction programs because sometimes they just don't survive. But even more famous than the turkeys are the Sasquatch legends. Washington has over 700 documented Bigfoot sightings, and the deep valleys of the Capitol Forest are considered a hotspot for those who believe something ancient still walks in the woods. So, Bigfoot or a turkey, you know?
Either or maybe that's why there's so many Bigfoot is because of the turkey.
Maybe they're living off of the turkeys. That's why they can't, all the turkeys are missing, Bigfoot are eating them.
That would make sense because I feel like turkeys are pretty hardy unless they're getting, like, over harvested. I've definitely heard that about Washington. It's got a lot of Bigfoot sightings, also has a lot of serial killers.
Well, on my way to work, I see a gang of turkeys on the side of the road, and the males, they're trying to impress so many females. Sometimes there's like 30 turkeys out there, and there's like just two males in the middle. So cute. Oh my gosh, they're just doing their thing, you know?
Love.
Finally, I must acknowledge that this land was cared for and understood long before Oakville was ever named on the map. To the east lie the ancestral lands of the Confederated Tribes of the Chehalis Reservation. The Salish speaking people of the Sands have called the basin home for millennia, surviving and thriving through a deep, reciprocal bond with the environment. They were a fierce, independent, non treaty people, refusing to sign away their rights to unfair terms, and instead relying on their own stewardship of the river. They were the original architects of this landscape, living in massive cedar longhouses along the water's edge and navigating the shifting currents in shovel nosed canoes designed for the sandy river bottoms. Far from leaving the land wild, they actively gardened the region, using controlled, low intensity fires to prevent the forests from overtaking the prairies. This ancient practice ensured that life sustaining plants like the camas and the chocolate lily could flourish. It is a land of deep indigenous history, shifting waters, and ancient trees. A place where the veil between the natural and the unexplained has always been thin. It's the perfect stage for the strange events we're about to uncover. Oh, wait, I forgot. And really fast, actually, before we go into the main story, I wrote this entire background section and I was about to call it quits when I realized I didn't add a single detail about birds.
That's shocking.
I know. I was actually really shocked. I like finished. I'm like, yeah, I'm done. Oh my god, wait, no. Birds. What am I doing? So, I just want to mention super duper fast that one of the rarest birds in the area is the horned lark. The Oakville area is one of their last strongholds in the Pacific Northwest because it's a specialist of the mound and swale prairies, as described earlier. They're a ground nesting bird, and they can be identified by their adorable little black feather tufts and bold, curving mask that runs across the eyes and down the cheeks. We have horned larks here in Michigan, and every time I see them, I am thrilled. Marissa, do you see them often?
I have never seen a horned lark in the wild.
No.
No. Yeah, and I've only ever seen, I think, a baby. We got a baby at work once, which obviously was cool. Didn't have, the horns, quote unquote, yet. But I'd love to see one in the wild. They're more common in like fields, like open fields and stuff, right?
Yeah, open fields. I feel like you can often hear them before you see them because they blend in
Okay.
so well with the ground. A lot of times you can even see them just alongside the road too. When I was in Ontario, that's how I would see them. They would be just like on my road that I lived on,
Oh,
just
wow.
on the side of the road pecking at like pebbles on the road. And so I'd see them every day.
Do you see one every year?
Pretty much, yeah.
So I can make this a goal to see this bird because we had a thing at work where it's like, "What species do you wanna check on your list this year?" And I was literally like, "Anything will do." Like, I'll take what I can get. But if I can easily see the horned lark.
That'll be great. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Mine for years has been the snowy owl, but I miss it each winter.
On August 7th, 1994, small transparent gelatinous blobs fell down on Oakville, Washington. Sure, It's seen its fair share of rain, but this was unlike anything locals of the town had ever seen before. Police officer David Lacey was driving with a friend when it began to rain. He didn't notice anything unusual at first until he turned on his windshield wipers, and they were not wiping away the rain that had fallen onto his windshield. The wipers instead smeared what was ever on the shield, on the window, and he was unable to see well. So he actually had to pull over at the next gas station and get out. He then went to inspect this weird substance covering his windshield and discovered a thick, gelatinous mess that had coated his car in a thin layer. He described it as being able to be squished between your fingers and that he had alarm bells going off inside his head that something was not right about this. By the next day, police officer Lacey had come down sick with an unexplainable nausea and fatigue.
That's not good.
It's not
That's
good,
suspicious.
and he wasn't the only one that got sick. Former Oakville resident Sunny had recently moved to the area in 1993 to help out her mom when a severe storm occurred with a strange, thick looking rain. With a background in occupational health and safety, she kept a strict record of what she witnessed when the blobs fell down at 4:30 p.m. that day. And it was, of course, the same day that police officer Lacey had encountered the strange blobs. Sunny and her brother collected samples and conducted their own little at-home test, which I love. They conducted these tests at 5:30 p.m. and 6 p.m. that same day, so between an hour and a half after those strange blobs fell from the sky. The tests they did included trying to dissolve it in alcohol. It did break down. They did test the flammability. It did not burn. It was just very strange and unlike anything they had ever seen before. Sunny was particularly concerned with her health and safety background because it had fallen on food that people eat, the garden, and it probably fell on many people's gardens. So she contacted the Department of Agriculture and more. The Department of Agriculture was not concerned, and no one really seemed to pay much attention. She got pushed from one agency to another when eventually she just kind of put her hands up and kept the information for another rainy day.
It's crazy that nobody would care about a strange substance falling from the sky.
Particularly, like, Department of Agriculture, like, I don't know, that is just surprising to me, but they basically told her, "Don't worry about it," and, I mean, it rains here all the time, it'll just wash off with the next rain.
They probably thought she was just crazy.
Right. This isn't the first time in history something strange has fallen from the sky that was rain-like, blob-like, whatever, but it's one of the few documented times that these blobs or whatever that's strange falling from the sky causes illnesses and sicknesses. So this is what kind of elevates this incident to a whole other level. The next day, Sunny's mother became disturbingly ill, only within like 24 hours of touching the substance. She was found on the floor, disoriented and dizzy. With a hunch, Sunny took a sample of that blob to the hospital with her mother. She's like, "You're going to the ER. I'm also going to take the weird blob with us." The physician of the local hospital took it in, and the clinic lab staff was actually able to determine that whatever the sample was contained human white blood cells. They, however, did not have the capability of determining the origin or full composition. This was just a local hospital seeing what it can, get from the more standard tests they can do. The fact that it contained human blood cells, though, was strange enough. The resident, Sunny, then sent that sample for further testing to the Washington State Health Department and Department of Ecology, likely the same places she originally called asking for guidance and they had pushed her off. Sunny's mother stayed in the hospital for 4 days before ultimately recovering and being discharged. The discharge papers stated that she had a case of some sort of virus. They couldn't really determine exactly what was wrong, they just treated the symptoms. Several other residents of Oakville had also come down ill that same week with similar symptoms. There were also various reports of animal dying or found dead, and this occurred all after the aftermath of when those gelatinous blobs fell, from cats to farm animals to frogs. After that sample was submitted, the Department of Ecology confirmed that the mysterious blobs came from a living being. It was a cell. It had cells, so it had no nuclei, so it couldn't have come from a human. What the hospital had originally stated was incorrect. So logically, your next thought is, could it be pulverized jellyfish falling from the sky? That was the theory.
That wasn't my first theory. My first theory, of course, as we all know it's gonna be aliens.
Well, yeah. I mean, it has to be. Kinda meant to say a little bit more before we get into this pulverized jellyfish hypothesis, more so about what the blobs looked like. Think of just clear gelatinous blob.
And does it, like, fall apart in their hands?
It didn't seem to, like, it could be squished, but it doesn't, like, completely disintegrate. So just like a thick gelatinous blob, from what I understood, it was no more than the size of, like, a fist, of, like, a hand, and some were a lot smaller in size. So it varied in size, but it nothing, like, too large. So due to these, like, weird, the fact that they found that it had cells, had to come from a living being, what's, I guess, gelatinous? Jellyfish? So, as they were trying to determine what the Oakville blobs were, hundreds of dead crabs were discovered along Calamosh Beach in Washington, and intermixed it with it were dozens of those small gelatinous blobs. The people who discovered them had thought there may be a connection. Coincidentally or not, the blobs appeared around the time the Air Force was dropping bombs in the Pacific Ocean off the Washington coast for practice. Huh.
That sounds fishy.
Interesting. Less than 24 hours after, it is possible that, something the size of a jellyfish could be pulled up into the atmosphere and pulled back down. So that's kind of what they think could happen is the pressure from like the explosion of a bomb could have like shifted the jellyfish, put them all pulverized up into the sphere. Wind and storms blew them inland. So Oakville is inland, but it's only 40 miles from the coast. And it actually has been reported a number of times that animals have been pulled up and dropped a dozen to even 100 miles inland with the right weather conditions. So it's not impossible. However, the blobs appeared 6 separate times within a 3-week period. At this point, how could this be explained by jellyfish?
Why would yeah, are there just jellyfish pieces just hanging out up in the sky for 6 weeks?
Yeah, it's not adding up. That's doesn't make sense.
But also, were they not able to extract DNA from these blobs?
That is a great question, and we'll get more into that, but there was some pushback on getting it tested. So I did just throw in this fun quote here because a lot of this information I forgot to say was from, I think, Unexplained Files documentary, I believe on Netflix. And one of the scientists that were talking in it said this quote from Sherlock Holmes. And I'm like, heck yeah, that's awesome. When the simple is not the explanation, you have to go for the extraordinary. End quote. I like it. Aliens. I think that's what he meant to
Aliens,
say.
yeah.
So we got the Department of Agriculture results. They said, living cells, no nuclei, not human. The hospital said human white blood cells. The state health department's results yielded something completely unexpected. There was no structure to be found. When it was cultured, the following bacteria arose from the blobs: Pseudomonas fluorescens, found in water and soil, Enterobacter cloacase, found in the blah, 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 found in the digestive tract of humans and mammals. I would also like to say I think it's found in birds because definitely remember seeing that on a lab report I got from a vet at work.
There you go.
It's like, that causes GI upset. I know that. So, because mammals go to the bathroom outside, more or less, it's possible that the bacteria could have been picked up through the environment through animal droppings. So, it might not be actually from the blob itself, but the blob fell on the ground. That bacteria got on the blob. These
Mhm.
findings, however, had to have the scientists go back to the drawing board for its origins. A new theory, we're talking about bacteria here, a new theory became that it was somehow toilet waste from airplanes flying above.
I don't like that.
Sunny wasted no time. She contacted the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration, to get their insight. Are they dropping waste? What's going on? So the FAA reiterated that they do not drop waste out of planes flying overhead, and they are most commonly emptied out at airports. Furthermore, for some reason, the waste is dyed blue and the gelatinous blobs were completely clear. Strangely, while all this is happening, big black helicopters begin flying over the area once or twice a week after the gelatinous blobs fall down.
That has me
Coincidence?
thinking government conspiracy.
Later, Sonny encountered a group of men that were not from the area ordering milkshakes at the local diner. As we talked about, this is a small town. Everyone knows everyone. The men asked if it was true that this is the town that the blobs came down in. And is it true that this is where they thought they saw black aircraft? Sonny
Men in
felt
Black.
Oh, for sure. Sonny felt uncomfortable. She went to the window to write down the license plate number. And as she went to do so, a customer of hers, so she works at the diner now, a customer of hers said she had already wrote that license plate down because she didn't know who they were, but they caused like the hair on the back of her neck to stand up, is what she had told her. The license plate number came back registered to Fort Hood, Texas. What is Fort Hood, Texas? It is a military base known for potentially doing some weird alien stuff.
No way, really? I didn't know that. That's so sketchy.
It's very strange. So the microbiologist that did the testing through the state started to do more testing. He called the gelatinous blob a matrix, like it was like an envelope that something could be inserted into, like a bacteria or virus. He didn't have definitive proof of this yet, but he believed it could act as a delivery system or carrier system of sorts. Sonny, the resident, agreed with this finding, thinking it was possibly a military exercise, the government doing an experiment on their own people without their permission.
That would not be surprising, but horrible if that's the
It gave me
case.
goosebumps. That's scary. I mean, I feel like they're doing that to us every day.
I read a book like that one time where the government put a biological weapon out like that and just killed everyone, and only like the survivors were the only ones that had the immune response to it, and then the government sent out another one and killed a bunch of more people. I don't even know what book this was, but yeah, this
Was
is
it
what.
real?
No, no, this
Okay.
is fake.
Okay. So I have a potentially real story, actually. So, could the blobs been the result of military testing? You might think, never, not in the United States of America. Well, yes, definitely in the United States of America, of course. 1943, US became concerned of a biological warfare attack. We're in World War II, right? The US began conducting open air tests, both on military bases and in city populations, including Panama City, Florida, Norfolk, Virginia, and San Francisco, California. They conducted over 200 of these tests. San Francisco had Operation Sea Spray. They released organisms similar to anthrax and tested how they would travel. It was found that with the right wind and weather conditions, the spray devices on the barges of San Francisco that held the simulated organisms similar to anthrax, but non pathogenic, proved that it could spread. A significant portion of the population of San Francisco would have been exposed. Around this time, there was actually a report of 11 people who were infected with the Serratia marcescens, a pink, slimy substance that is found in humid environments. Can't confirm for sure, but there's lots of discourse on if that could have been due to Operation Sea Spray. The bacteria was originally thought to be harmless to humans, but is now known to cause certain types of infections or, in more severe cases, pneumonia. So they're like, oh, this is harmless. Let's go spraying this around off the barges, see how far it'll travel. It's like, no, that can actually make people very sick.
That is so scary because the government, they can kinda just do whatever they want and get away with it.
Yes,
That's horrible.
it's very scary.
And the fact that this is public knowledge too, but also what can we do?
Yeah, it's scary. President Nixon closed the military's offensive biological warfare program in 1969 in a step to ban biological warfare internationally. This program being closed in 1969, if these blobs were actually testing in the 90s, that would actually be a violation of international treaties. Also, another argument that, okay, it couldn't have been military testing. is, if someone is using biological weapons, the organism typically is not gonna be visible to the naked eye. They're not gonna be able to smell it, feel it, touch it. It's gonna be completely undetectable. Otherwise, it's gonna be a pretty crappy biological weapon.
But also, I mean, that's maybe why they tested. They're like, "Oh, do you think people are gonna notice this?"
That's true. I mean, well, and it's also just like it could be cheaper or cost effective, who knows? So, before the dedicated microbiologist Mike McDowell could finish his research, he came into work one day and noticed the sample was missing.
Typical.
He meticulously kept track of all of his samples, all of his records. This was completely out of character for him. He was not like me.
Losing everything all the time.
Right, exactly. I would lose my head if it was not attached. He asked his supervisor because clearly someone had to have taken it. He did not misplace this. The super advised him not ask him any questions.
I would then want to ask more questions.
Right. Well, then suits came in, black suits. He didn't know if it was the government or what. The sample, the records, they've all gone missing.
That's so crazy that Men in Black are real.
They gotta be. There's too many like experiences and encounters with them. They have to be.
Yeah, exactly. There has to be. But also, nowadays, with all of the cameras and everything, I wonder if there's footage of them. I need to look this up.
Well, there isn't because they have the things like in the Men in Black movies where they hold it up to the camera and
Yeah.
it's like it never happened.
Yeah, but if
So
it's on your phone, then you need password to delete it. Delete the video, delete the picture.
they already have all that access. They're listening
Oh
to
my
this
god,
recording
you're
as we're
right.
talking right now, Grace. They already
Oh my
know.
god.
It's not even it's on the stream.
They're listening right now.
We'll have to ask the alien people at the convention that's coming up soon, their thoughts on the Men in Black.
I feel like I just had a sudden bout of amnesia. Like, what are we even talking about right now?
Really?
No, I'm kidding. No, but that's also that's also just how my brain is now since pregnancy. Other moms out there, you'll understand. But continue, tell me more about this. It's so interesting.
Yeah, so unfortunately, that's kind of where we're at. The testing ran out. The microbiologist, the main one on the case, his samples were stolen by the Men in Black. Things have happened in other areas throughout the years, though to lesser extents. And because no one else gets sick, it's usually not reported and most of the time is quickly forgotten about. But Sunny, that resident, has kept the investigation alive.
Someone has to.
And right, and that's actually not where the story ends. On April 8th, 2025, 31 years later after the first incident, goo was raining down once again, and this time in the nearby Rochester, Washington, just 8 miles from Oakville. Similar to the original incidences of the gelatinous blobs, it was clear and jelly like, with no odor at all. One witness actually collected some in a jar, but found that the blobs had melted quickly at room temperature. The blobs were actually also much larger than those of Oakville, about the size of the palm of a hand as the average size. It's also weird that they were reacting differently, so they were dissipating more quickly. Maybe so people couldn't collect and run samples?
Yeah, they've learned. They've changed the product, and now people can't track it.
Exactly. 31 years later, they're like, it's been 31 years. No one remembers that time we were doing that testing, right? Let's try a little bit of a different technique.
So crazy. Because that is a really good explanation of that, just tweaking the recipe a little bit. Oof.
And actually, before we completely wrap up, there is one theory, but I wasn't a big fan of it, and I feel like it dismissed a lot of people's encounters with them actually seeing the gelatinous substance fall from the sky. This theory suggests that the blobs didn't fall from the sky, but actually appeared on the ground overnight. So there's a similar substance called star jelly, and it has been documented in various reports since the 1600s. There are substances that form this star jelly, and it has been said to come from a variety of things, from amphibians to algae to even crystals of sodium polyacrylamide. Have you ever heard of star jelly? I kind of went on a whole side quest. There's a whole Wikipedia page on it. It's very interesting.
No, but I just wanna Google it really fast.
I mean, it does look like what the blobs were said to look like. Um, and there's folklore on it. It's just this unknown cause. According to folklore, it's actually said to be deposited on the earth during meteor showers.
I mean, I like that, but it's not true. But
No.
also, sorry, not to discount the stories, but is it just, like, fungi?
Some people think it could be fungi, and I think the thing is it's probably multiple different things. People don't know what a lot of jelly-like substances are, and I don't know why that is, but there's a lot of different types and variations to it. So, some say, it could be a spawn jelly. So, star jelly is actually like, the eggs of frogs and amphibians. Some people will call that star jelly.
I fixed quite a few frog prolapses in my day, and I will say that sometimes, like, there is, like, clear just goo that comes out, which,
Oh.
is also how they lay their eggs, but that's, like, a lot, and egg dumps do happen with frogs, but there are eggs in there, it's not just a goo, and that's seems like a lot more than any frog could. I mean, I don't know the true size of these photos. This one has, like, a quarter next to it or something. It's a lot, that's a lot. I don't think that's from a frog.
Yeah, and others say, it seemed like it could actually be just growing out from among roots of grass. Basically, it could be star jelly, but it seems like people don't even know what star jelly is. They call a bunch of different things star jelly, including frog and toad egg masses, which we know aren't coming from the stars. They're frog and toad egg masses.
Frogs do come from the stars, Marissa.
That's true. That's true. I was wrong there. So, what is the strange, mysterious blobs that fell down on Washington over 30 years ago now? Was it star jelly, a man made biological testing weapon, pulverized jellyfish? Perhaps we'll never know. What do you think it is?
I think the most likely is something from the government. In my opinion, it sounds just about right, like something they would do as like a test. Hey, let's choose this tiny town of 700 something people and do a little test on them and see what happens, especially because people were getting sick. And I know I kind of always jump to aliens or like government cover up conspiracy, but like I said, if I say it enough, one of them has to be right eventually. So,
Oh,
I'm gonna I'm gonna go with that. Government cover up. They're testing a biological weapon, and I don't like it, but that's my theory. What about you, Marissa?
I'd have to agree just because the next theory that makes the most sense would be the pulverized jellyfish, even though that is an insane theory. If it happened just once or maybe even twice, I'd be like, yeah, okay, it sounds like it could have been pulverized jellyfish. But because it happened so many times, I do think there was some sort of deliberate thing making this happen, whether that's the government testing its own citizens or aliens having fun. Maybe it's alien, the blobs, and that's what they didn't want the microbiologist to find out, so they took it from him.
Or another theory, what if, and this is crazy, hear me out. What if an alien was kind of just like hovering over or flying over this little town and it got hit by a plane and it got pulverized and all of those little pieces came raining down? Ever think about that?
That's very true, and we talked about there potentially being aliens underwater. They dropped
Mhm,
bombs in the
mhm.
water. How much more frequent testing were they doing? Like, they were probably dropping more bombs than the public was aware of. Were they just blowing up poor alien civilizations in the water?
Yeah, that's a cover up too, probably. They were just testing their bombs when really they're destroying the alien civilizations.
Oh my god, you're right. Alright, well, I think 32 years later, almost to the day well, no, I guess it was in August, not April. I swear I said it was April. Oh, no, that was the original one. Almost 31 years later, we have finally discovered what actually happened,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
that honestly makes sense, and regardless, it's something to do with the government for sure.
Yeah. The government's just been keeping this alien war secret and private. This podcast brings out, like, the crazy in me.
Gotta get my tinfoil hat on.
Yeah. Alright, so as far as the scare scale goes, from 1 to 10, where 1 is just a little strange, You don't even write home about it. 5 is weird enough to be an exciting story that you tell someone you just met. And 10, so horrifying, you pretend you never saw it, never heard about it, and you never want to talk about it again. Go.
I would say a 5. I would definitely try and do some I would collect the samples. I don't think I would do some at-home testing with it.
I wouldn't even think to do that.
Actually, I'll do this instead. I'm gonna collect enough samples. I'm gonna save some on my own so it can't get stolen by the men in black to the state and
Mhm.
federal authorities, and then the rest I'll send off to the appropriate resources, but I'll save some for myself. What about you?
I was thinking 6 just because of the mystery behind it. And I don't think I would be really scared, but I would be more scared of the possibilities that what it could be. Because of course, our brain always goes to like it's the government, it's aliens, and it's like what is this actually? And back then they did not have the social connection that we have now. You can't just go to social media and say like, "Hey, I found this. What do you guys think?" They were a small town, kind of isolated, and they're trying to get these tests done, and they're coming back with no answers, right? And I think just the not knowing would be kind of scary in a way.
Definitely, and especially people are getting sick or ill from it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and then you're worried about your loved ones. Also, this whole time, I've wondered, did it have a smell?
It didn't have a smell.
Hmm.
No, it had no smell.
Because that's the first thing I would do is I would, like, bring it up to my nose and try to smell it, and then I'd probably get sick.
Yeah, probably. But no, it did not have a smell, just a clear, gelatinous, misshapen, unscented blob. Very, very strange.
I feel bad for the animals that died. But,
Yeah,
I mean, couldn't they do necropsy on those animals and see, like, what bacteria at least or virus they have that killed them?
that's true, but it seemed like there was kind of a lack of initial response from the appropriate agencies, and then when there was a response, the higher ups didn't want that to happen. So I think it kinda shut down any real possibility of getting it solved. Where I feel
And
like
that kind of
normally that is something that should definitely be done, right? It's like, "Okay,
yeah,
let's collect the samples, let's collect some of the animals for necropsy." None of that was done.
and that kind of lends itself more to the government conspiracy theory.
Right, because how are you gonna tell me Department of Agriculture or even, like, the DNR, Washington equivalent wouldn't care about that? Like, that's
That's
just doesn't make
literally their
sense.
job.
Yeah, that's their bread and butter. You'd think they'd love that, right? Love to, like, investigate and figure it out.
But yeah, no, this has been great. Thank you so much, Marissa, for all of that. And, like, I have heard of this, but I never heard of the stuff with the scientists and the basically Men in Black. So that was
Awesome.
very intriguing.
Well, thank you so much for joining us this week on Nature Obscura. If you could give us a follow and a review wherever you listen to your podcast, and like a social media post, share it. That's always fun. We're on Facebook and Instagram, and we dabble in YouTube and TikTok to the best of our ability. But yeah, thanks for listening.
Stay obscure, Earthlings.
Transmission ending.